Welcome back to Technically Speaking, the web series for Playhouse in the Park here in Murray, Kentucky. We are so excited about this episode because we have with us not one, not two, but three costumers from the costume team here at our community theater. We have Jalila Renfro and Amber Smith and myself, Lindsay, and we're just going to talk to you guys tonight about what we do. In this series, we've talked to lighting designers, we've talked to sound designers, actors, musical directors, and so now we get to talk to you about the coolest part of Playhouse, we think, and that is costuming. So we're going to start with Jalila. Jalila, how did you get involved in Playhouse in the Park?
Honestly, one of the costumers who was taking charge before, she had, I think a sickness in her family. She had to step away for a while, and Lisa happened to have my number, and that's how I got here. So.
Awesome. And you, Amber, how did you get involved?
I moved back due to life changes, and my sister was in a show. Jax was. She was Pocahontas in Disenchanted. And she was like, hey, you like to do costumes? Other people are there that know you, so come do it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
That's awesome. And I think for me, I was an actor. I acted with a small troupe that went to a little contest, and Lainey Mitchell gave me a call, and she's like, hey, you're funny. Will you come do this little part for us? And so I did that. And then I did, I think, makeup for Addams Family. And then I got into costumes with Beauty and the Beast. So I didn't even start with the costume team. But once you're on the costume team, you're there forever. So, what keeps you guys at Playhouse? Amber, what makes you want to stay?
The projects, the creativity, it's a good outlet. I love hanging out with you guys. The costume team is amazing. We're all about building each other's self-esteem, making each other look good. And, part of making a person look good is building their self-esteem. So the compliments and the creativity and just, I don't know.
How about you, Jalila?
I think, it's part just being able to do something that I really like to do, make costumes, and to be around people that I really like being around.
Yeah, and I personally find the challenge is really cool because you never know what body type you're going to have to fit, what direction the director's going to want to go, and so it's kind of a lot of problem solving on your feet. Somebody splits their pants on stage, and you literally have a lights out to get those whipped back up. Stuff like that I enjoy. So as we move forward in this conversation, I'm going to let you two answer this question because I've touched on it in other episodes. But what specifically are you guys in charge of during the run of a show? From the first time the director calls you to say, be on my team, to the strike. What do you guys do?
I guess I'll go through the process.
Yeah.
I guess the first thing that I usually do is try to talk to the director to understand what it is they're looking for and where it is they want to go, and then try and read through the script and highlight or take any notes about specific costume stuff that is mentioned in the script. And then when the actors start coming, we get them measured. We talk to them about stuff maybe they have at home that they can bring so that we don't have to buy everything. And then is when we get to work. And if it's a show where we have to pull a lot of things, or if there's more thrift store shopping, then that's what we do. Or if there's a show where okay, we got to make every single thing from scratch, so let's go. Then that's what we do. And then we fit everything on everybody, and then by the time dress rehearsal starts, we want to be done. We're usually not. And then just get everything done by the time it's got to go on stage, and then hopefully everything looks good and everybody feels happy with how they look in their clothes, and yeah.
I think that's really important too, because if you don't feel confident on stage, you're not going to put your best foot forward. So that's part of something that we do, is look at what fits the body type the best and what makes that actor stand a little taller. Amber, specifically, You do a lot of work in our warehouse.
Yes.
Can you tell us what that process is like, and why do we even have a warehouse?
The warehouse. Right now, I'm in the process of getting it organized. So you mentioned that this is the third place that we've been in 5 years. So that's a lot of moving. That's a lot of jumbling things, throwing things in a box or a bag or a basket and just putting it somewhere. So there have been, I'm cleaning those boxes out. I'm getting those clothes on hangers. I'm taking an inventory of what we have. I went through 2 totes where we had nothing but prairie wear of stuff, like the shirts, I found all of the 1776 neck things. What are those called? Cravats? Neck things. That's what they're called. And, just getting them organized and putting the likes with the likes, like all of the sleepwear together, all of those 1776 jackets, which we're not getting rid of because we made those from scratch. And
what did we make those out of?
Curtains that were donated. Actually, I donated a couple sets of those curtains. Nancy made a beautiful jacket for Mark. And a couple of vests too.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also inventorying all the hats, seeing what we have too many of. Like there is one style of hat where we have every single color. So we don't need every single color. So we're trying to find other alternatives to do with that. Maybe doing some fundraiser with it or, donating them to other causes. Also letting everybody know, all the possible directors, letting Lisa know that, hey, we do have these things. What if we do these different avenues? I don't know.
Yeah.
We do let some other, there have been some other school theater groups that have asked us to borrow some pieces. We allow them to do that. We have it. Mm-hmm. We just ask that they return it back in the condition that they got it. And if something happens to it, please replace it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but the warehouse she's referring to is 2,000 square feet. This isn't just like your, walk-in closet. This is a 2,000 square foot warehouse that looks like a store. We have racks and racks and racks of clothes and hats and shoes. For you guys, why is it important that we keep that stuff? Why can't we just go buy new stuff every show or ask people to borrow it?
Unfortunately, we don't have an endless bucket of money. And so buying fabric and buying clothes is getting more and more expensive every day. And so us being able to have things that we can reuse or repurpose is super important so that we can conserve our funds.
Right. I was reduce, reuse, recycle. Playhouse does that better than anybody I've ever seen.
Right.
So what were you going to say, Amber?
Well, there have been several pieces that I've looked at, and I've seen it as it was, I can't remember the exact shows it was in, but it was a jacket for something, and then it got transferred into something else, and now it's sitting in there as some type of bug or an animal. So, like, the different phases or life cycles that it has, but each time it's amazing. Marcy is amazing at using what we've got and transforming it into something completely different for her or for the camps that we have. And then for Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, we had a bunch of animals.
Right.
But they were wearing clothes, and Bridget and her mother took some random fur pieces that we had and transformed those clothes into animal pieces by just adding a little tuft of a tail in the back or ears on a hat. And it just amazes me, the creativity that the costumers have.
Right. Yeah, it's shocking every time I see a play. I love really the plays that I'm not involved in because I'll be like, we use that in that show and it's completely something different. Or certain pieces show up over and over again. I don't know if you remember this. This was probably before you came back, but several years ago there was this electric blue mini dress that was in like 5 shows in a row. Do you remember this? It had ruching down the side, and it just kept showing up in different ways. And I was like, how many more times can we make that dress work? And then one day it just disappeared. So it's probably buried in the warehouse somewhere. In a few years from now, it'll show back up. So you mentioned money. What is a budget like for a show that we do here at Playhouse?
It can go anywhere from... Right now, we're trying not to spend any money.
Yeah.
So it can go anywhere from 0 to about $350. I think $450 is the most I've ever had to work with anything. And I think that was Beauty and the Beast, and that was an enormous show.
That had 66 people in it.
Yeah.
Double cast. And you had how much?
$450, and we did have to make pretty much everything in that show.
Wow. That's crazy.
So,
because Belle, and I know a lot of those pieces had to be either sizable or you had two because the people cast weren't the same size. So when it comes to costuming, what is your favorite aspect of costuming? What's the best part of your job?
Making people look good.
Yeah, I just like, especially when I get the chance to like really come up with something that's super creative and like just not anything that you would wear in your regular life. So it's just like, it's something off the wall. Those are the things that I like the most.
What is your favorite costume you've ever made?
I have a lot, actually. I don't know if I can just pin that down, but I fell in love with the fabric that I used for the Beast coat. Like in the little where he dances with Belle and everything. That I super liked that. I also liked Belle's dress, and then I liked my version of Belle's dress that I made for Disenchanted, which was kind of a little wacky. So
yeah,
that was amazing.
What's your favorite?
Different shows bring out different things. My first show I worked on, Disenchanted, I made a full-on Disney ball gown for Tanya. What did you guys call her in that?
Tiana?
We weren't allowed to call her Tiana because that's a Disney word.
Right.
So she was the princess from The Princess and the Frog.
Whoops.
So. My blood, sweat, and tears literally went into that skirt. I costumed my sister Jax for that too, and she looked amazing. And I'm getting ready. I'm working on one for Sleepy Hollow that I'm really excited about. I don't want to give too much, but I'm the lead costumer for Sleepy Hollow, or The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
That's
so
really cool.
I'm super excited.
Well, my favorite, I think, was the first one I ever came in on. I happened to be at Playhouse one day, and Lisa said, we rented a chip head for Beauty and the Beast, and it's too little, and the little boy cried when we tried to take it off of him. And I was like, whoops. So I ran to Lowe's really quick and bought a flower pot, like a plastic flower pot, and I made the chip head. And my favorite part of that show was when they would wheel him out in his little cart, and everyone would go, "Aww!" and we had to make the chip body match Mrs. Pot. So that was kind of fun to work with. I think it was Angela who made that costume. And just to kind of see what flowers she was using so I could paint those on the teacup. And I loved Chip. That was an awesome show. That was a hard show. So speaking of hard stuff, what is the hardest part about being a costumer?
Making people look good.
Yeah.
I think sometimes dealing with... Because sometimes there is a conflict between what the character would wear and what the actor wearing the clothes would wear.
Yeah.
And because you don't ever want anybody to feel uncomfortable in what they're wearing, but you also want the character to read through what they're wearing. Right. And so that conflict and trying to work through that is, I mean, it's a nice opportunity to problem solve and things like that, but it's always so... you just don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want anybody to feel like you like put them in this thing that they're not comfortable in.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you have lived with this vision of what this character is going to look like for a little while, and then you have to kind of break up with that.
Yeah.
And be okay with it.
Yeah, and not every character in community theater is sexy or is form-fitting or is all these
Or
things
cute.
or
I
cute.
mean,
Sometimes you have to make precious people look terrible, and then you have to be like, I still love you, but put this wart on your nose and do all these things, and it's uncomfortable sometimes to make people look worse and then send them out on stage. But if that's what the character calls for, you're right. That is a really hard conversation when it's difficult for your vision to match their vision to match the director's vision, because ultimately it's the director who gets to decide.
Yes.
So do you have a comment to that, Amber?
Like Jalila said, marrying all those ideas together, the actor, what the script is saying along with what the director is saying, and then on top of it, what our budget allows too. That's a big thing on some things. But, most of the time it works out. Well, all the time it works out. They go on stage looking
the best we can make them look.
Yeah. Or the ugliest we can make them look, if that's what it calls for. But, everybody kind of getting on that same page sometimes can be difficult to do. A lot of problem solving, a lot of compromising, communicating. That's the biggest thing, is the communication. Is because, like she said, I know I do. I get set on a certain look, and when someone says, well, I'm not quite sure about that, I'm just like, fine. Whatever. Find your own another costume, or I'm done. But no, I have to check that at the door because, it's not about me. I'm not the one going out there wearing this, it's someone else's vision. So it's really important projecting that or help carrying that out. And I think that's really another awesome thing about being a part of this community, this family. We're all in it together to help entertain, to help educate, to help bring important messages. It's sometimes it can be a lot bigger than what we are individually. One of the shows that really touched me and helped me through some difficult things was Next to Normal. And it really touched so many different things. It was a very hard show to do, but very rewarding. And I had a chance. It was the first one that I was the lead on. It was third show I helped with. And I had one person doing 13 costume changes in that show.
Oh, wow.
Oops. But through it, I was able to tell a story of what was going on. Everybody started off in this dark place. I made sure their clothes reflected that darkness. And then as the show went on, they were going towards the light. And that was their last song, was singing about stepping into the light. And I made sure all of them were in some version of a lighter color of what they started with.
That's amazing. That's really, really cool. So when you talk about costumes and shows that were difficult, sometimes they're emotionally difficult. Sometimes there's a special request. Like the one that came to my mind was a show where we had to make a character bleed on stage with a blood pack. And I know Jalila and I we tried to problem solve this issue for weeks. Like it took days and days and days to get these two people to hug. And when they hugged, a blood pack had to burst open. And that was really difficult. Like that's all I remember about that show, was trying to figure out how we were going to make this thing pop every night. And we ended up making a murder room in the bathroom. That's what it sounded like. We covered the walls in paper because we had these bloody costumes every night that we had to bring in and not get blood all over everybody and everything. And we couldn't clean it up while there were people in the green room. So do you have any other stories like that of things that were just outrageous? That
one was really impactful because one day you messaged me and you said, okay, so I have lined the walls in the bathroom with plastic bags and the floor and everything, and I guess my husband had been rewatching Dexter at the time, and I was like, so you made a murder room?
Well, Well, we needed it because blood dripped. And so she would drip all over stage. So like at intermission, we had to go clean up the blood. And then we had to clean it up backstage. And we had it all in the swimming pool. We carried a swimming pool around the front of the building and took it back in the green room. And it was an ordeal, but that's what the show called for.
Oh, and I remember it was hard, like, you know, in the few minutes she was backstage before she went on, while she was just wearing this thing with the blood packs in it, it was hard to make sure that none of those popped before she went out.
Yes.
And that was a lot.
And we had to do it in the dark. I remember Davin, one of our wonderful costumers. He is so talented. He was back there.
He was
like,
actually in the
he was
show
in the show
as a costume.
Yeah, he was the costumer in the show, but he would stand back there and we would cover, like, hold these bags that he would pour in the dark. Because a lot of costume work is in the dark. When you're doing quick changes, you're on the floor buckling people's shoes, you're zipping up things, and they're literally on and off. Like,
Yes.
we get really good at working in the dark.
It's not just one person working on a show. It's a whole team of people. Like you guys were working together on that bloody costume, you know.
And there were 4 or 5 others working with us to do everybody else.
On the other side of the stage in the dark. And,
In Next to Normal, it was me and another person that was helping with all those several dozen costume changes. Like as they're taking something off, you're putting something on. And I remember Don Fleming, he was in something. I can't remember. Sorry, Don. But I think sorry, I can't remember. But he said it's like he would have like 3-second costume changes, and it was a full head to toe costume change. So as soon as he came off, he knew what to take off, and the next person was either taking something or putting on. And he said it was like a ballet, a routine. And if one person missed a beat, it was thrown off.
Yeah. In the dining room, I don't know if you remember this, Tim Vaughn came off the stage one side. He would be unbuttoning his shirt, and we would walk with him. He would unbutton his shirt, take off his shirt, we'd put his other shirt back on, and he'd walk back in the other door. Like, you couldn't miss a step because he switched characters in that show, and he literally had the length of the stage to completely change. And that was nerve-wracking.
And I think what a lot of people don't know is we only practiced that for like 4 days.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's crazy. So our magic kits. This is my favorite thing to talk about. I feel like such a superhero when I walk in the green room before a show with my bag. What is in your magic kit that you bring to a show?
Safety pins. Safety pins.
permanent markers, like, you really don't understand how, like, you can color in some scuffs on somebody's shoes and cover somebody's sock if that's the problem.
My secret is binder clips. I keep binder clips in my magic kit all the time because if somebody's skirt pops on stage, pull it together, pop it on, and then you can fix it at the next intermission. So, like, that's awesome. Anything else that...
Well, you know, we always have thread and needles, scissors. I make sure I have scissors because there are no telling how many scissors get lost in the green room. They have hidden legs that they just go away somewhere.
Measuring tapes are the same way. You hang on to your measuring tape like it's your child.
Yes. Yes. And then I make sure that, you know, we kind of, I don't know, have an extra of whatever on hand, just in case. You were talking about 1776 in a previous episode where we got a call that someone got sick, went to the hospital during the run, and you guys had to literally tape a jacket together to get him on stage.
Yeah, I keep double stick tape in my bag, and that's exactly what it was for. You know, because sometimes if a girl's zipper breaks, you may have to double tape some things to get them back on stage. So, as we wrap up this portion of the conversation, what talents, if someone wanted to join our costume team, which is a lot of fun, by the way, like we're awesome, what talents would they need to bring to the table, and what expectations would we have for them?
Honestly, I think really just someone who is creative and has ideas and likes to work with other people. And I think that's the most important, more important than being able to sew and other things, because so much of what we do is taking something that we already have and adding to it. And a lot of that doesn't involve a whole lot of technical sewing skill. And I think that's why we're a pretty great place to be, because you can come and help us no matter what skill level you have.
I don't sew.
No.
I do all the crafting and hats and weird pieces. I can sew by hand, but that takes too long. Leave that to you guys.
Well, a willingness to even help.
Yeah.
There are some shows that we pull a lot for. And, just if you have time during the day or any time at all to donate. It could be for just one show specifically, if you have someone in mind that you want a costume for, or, if there's a particular show, or if you want to come for a full season. We take whatever. If you can just sit in the green room and help, sew up a split pant, it doesn't have to be for a year commitment or a 5-year commitment. Just coming in a willingness and a creative spark. That's
there's
fantastic.
Always somebody in the green room, whether you know this or not. For every show, of course, we do all the preliminary work, but then at every performance, there's at least one person. If they need somebody for quick changes, we normally have 2 or 3. But there's always one person in there to handle those emergencies. So if you're good in an emergency, volunteer. You don't even have to sew the initial costumes. But if you're just there to help when somebody needs to pin the back of their dress or their shoestring broke, what do I do? Those kinds of troubleshooting, that's awesome. If you're great at organizing, Amber could always use help in the warehouse, because this is the first time we've ever owned a space. So now we get to organize it. So that brings us to our announcement, which is why we wanted to have the costumers here. We are so excited to make an announcement that we are getting ready to host a virtual costume 5K, where we are asking individuals from October 4th to 17th to get in a costume and go on a 5K run or walk for us. If you go to our website or our Facebook page, we're going to have all that information there. So tune in there. It'll be posted shortly. Where you can learn how to do that. And we're asking individuals to sponsor a square foot in our 2,000 square foot warehouse. So $10 for a square foot. We're hoping to raise $20,000 for this campaign. So guys, why is this important? Why do we need this money?
For our warehouse. We have had to move so many times. And I mean, there was the fire several years ago, which I wasn't here for. So I didn't have to deal with that, which everybody who was here, like that,
traumatic.
That's a very pinpointed area in their life. But I have been here for 3 moves though, and each time we were so thankful that people would give us space, but at the same time it was always temporary. It was always, we're letting you use this space, but as soon as we can sell our building, or as soon as we have this other thing moving in, you guys got to go. And so it always felt like we couldn't spread out, we couldn't do anything, because we're going to have to pack it all up and move. And when this building that we're in now was initially a donated space that we were borrowing before we bought it, it was a similar situation, and then there was a time where we weren't sure we were going to be able to buy this building, and someone else might, and we were like, how are we going to box all these things up and put them in people's garages or basements and things like that, and then how are we going to access anything if that's where our stuff is, just spread all over town in different people's houses. And just to know that this is ours. This is our space. We don't have to worry about on just in a minute's notice having to move it out and put it somewhere is just something that makes it so much easier to do the creative part of it.
And as Amber was saying, it's now a curated collection. We can say this is medieval, this is Renaissance, this is woodland creature, this is furry animal, whatever it is. This is the children's section. These are special sizes. This is bridal gowns. We've never had that at this capacity. So it's going to make costuming a lot more fun. Plus, this new area has a sewing room for us. It has a climate control where we can keep furs. We have places where we can keep things that aren't really replaceable. So this is a huge thing that we're asking our sponsors and our fans and dentists and family and whoever wants to participate to consider sponsoring a square foot for $10. Again, check out the Playhouse in the Park Facebook page for all of the information. It'll be uploaded soon, but we wanted to make this announcement with costumers present because It's been a long journey since that fire in 2014, and we are so ready to have our own space. But let me just say, it hasn't slowed us down. I counted up the other day. Since the fire, we have had over 60 major productions. 60! That's crazy. That's a huge number of productions to get out when we've been living out of boxes. Like,
Yeah.
that's a lot of work.
Well, it's great now that we have the space because we can spread things out. Things are being cared for properly. Right. You know, there's a lot of stuff that I had to throw out a whole bag because it was eaten through by mice. And it just wasn't being taken care of. But now we can hang things up. We can see what we have. Yeah. So not only it is taking money to maintain the space, but it's saving us money from having to buy those things that can be transformed into something else, or, you know, these beautiful formal gowns that we have, they can be hung up instead of them being stuck in a box or a bag. And it's just amazing. And seeing what we've got.
Yes.
We've got so many beautiful, amazing, neat pieces. I've loved that part, seeing the fun things, or, you know, we get a lot of older generation clothes. I went through a couple boxes recently where there was nothing but 60s jumpsuits, and the fabric that was used was just, some of it was odd, but it was amazing seeing what was hip and now then, what was popular at that time. And I don't know, it's neat seeing just the different things. Having all those shades of that one hat. That hat was very popular, and they did not come from the same person.
Yeah.
But it just, and then seeing what the possibility of what a piece could turn into. We get the list of shows towards the end of a year, and we start thinking of what we've got, and you know, we're like, oh, that one dress that was from that one show, oh, it'd be great for this. Or do you remember where this is? Now that I've got the warehouse organized,
yes,
I know right where it is.
Yes.
Let me go pull it for you in 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is awesome. And I love that now that we have the space organized, we know what to ask for in terms of donations now, too.
Yes.
We know we're not asking for donations right away because we don't know what our new season's going to be. But now that Amber's organizing it and her team's organizing it, we can now, in the future, be like, you know, next year we're going to do this with the show with a prisoner theme. Maybe we need some prisoner costumes, or we need nuns' habits, or whatever it is. We'll be able to pinpoint better, which we want to be good stewards of our donations and those who give to us. So this is a really awesome opportunity for you guys to see the work we're putting in.
We do appreciate the donations, and I hate turning them away. Most of the time I will say yes to a donation. Mainly because I haven't seen it, but once we've seen it and see the possibility, the integrity of the piece, you know, the uses that we could get out of it, yeah, we'll definitely put it in our collection. But, you know, if we can't use it right then, you know, maybe it can be used during our camps, the summer camps, or, you know, if it's just, there's no use for it at all, I definitely donate it. Or we've done the costume sale from last year. You know, it's not being thrown in the trash.
Yeah.
Know that. It's not being thrown in the trash. We're either using it or it's being sent to a different home.
Yeah.
Where someone else can get a benefit of that piece.
Or a school's getting it, and, you know, there's lots of stuff going on with our donations. So thank you guys for joining me. I hope you'll come back sometime and have a conversation with me again. And we're so thankful you guys have been joining us for this episode and this whole series. Technically speaking, it's been so fun to shoot. We may be back in the future with some other folks. We'll see what happens. If you have any other questions about Playhouse in the Park, drop us a question below, and we'd be happy to answer that for you or find someone who can. And as always, check out our website, subscribe to Playhouse in the Park on YouTube, and check us out on social media. Bye, guys.